for Kiwanis, Past Assistant Secretary Stephen Greig and Kiwanis Andre Palmer. To do the official welcome, I'm going to call on President-elect Junior to welcome those of you on the platform and to do the roll call of club. Junior, over to you.
Thank you, President Paul, and good night, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Tonight is our up close and personal night. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Yes. Up front and personal night with two of our Kiwanians. And in this segment, we will give you the opportunity to bring greetings from your club. So we'll just start with those clubs outside of Jamaica. Clubs outside of Jamaica that would like to bring greetings from your clubs, respective clubs. If not, we'll start with our Division 25. Clubs in Division 25 that would like to bring greetings at this time. Division 25, 24, Division 24, 23 East, 23 East, 23 West, our own Division 23 Central. Are we on tonight?
Oh yes, PE Junior.
Go ahead.
PE Junior, we are on. I
thought you ignored me tonight.
Pardon?
I thought you were ignoring me tonight.
Oh no, I would not ignore your PE Junior. I'm Kiwanian, you already see from 23 Central, sorry, online. And tonight I can only see myself and a dual member, DP Desmond. And I'm hoping for more, but in the interim, I'm just going to relax and listen to this presentation of that you have for us.
And thank you for coming, and I'm sure that we'll have more coming on later.
Okay, I trust that that is true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, PE Junior. I'm President Paul, an entire team of Kiwanis Club of Kingston, DLGE Racing, and my
I noticed that you're online.
I'm saluting as I'm right here, Mandeville, saluting.
Yes.
Greetings from Kiwanis Club of Downtown Kingston. A number of us online. The Mario is there.
I noticed that as well.
Is there. Others are coming. We really want to have a nice time with you tonight.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to your support with our fundraising when the time comes for the announcement. So we are here to support you.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for being with us. I'm sure you'll enjoy tonight's proceeding.
Yeah, well,
23 Central, anymore? Let us go to our SLPs. I'm sure there are a lot of them online.
I raised my hand to talk, yes.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, man. Good evening. Greetings from the diverse professional in Portmore.
Okay.
P. Omar. Yeah.
Thank you for coming, P. You don't have anybody with you yet?
No, not yet. Expecting to see others later, but not yet.
All right, we'll wait and see. Thank you for coming.
Good
Yes,
evening,
we are hearing
everyone.
you.
This is President Arena from the Dunum Park Technical High School Key Club.
Always with us, always with us.
That is right. With me, I have VP Daniel Heath and Clubber Sage whilst awaiting more members. You know, it's always a pleasure to be here. We give thanks for the invitation.
Yes, and it's always a pleasure having you with us as well. Thank you for coming. Any more SLPs?
Good evening, everyone. This is DS Diana Denton from the Micro University College Circle K International Club. Here with me is President Joshua Brown, and we are always looking forward to a wonderful meeting.
Yes, and we are always looking forward to have you with us. Thank you for coming. Any more for SLPs?
They choose in the house.
Huh? What about those non-Kiwanians that are online with us today?
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Yes.
I am President Debra Heron from the St. Hughes High School Key Club. Currently, we only have 2 members on board with us right now, which is Secretary Roseanne Francis and a clubber, Cameron. So thank you very much for the invite, and hopefully I will learn a few things or two while getting up close and personal tonight.
I'm sure you will. Thank you for coming. Any others? Other Kiwanians that are on the platform that would like to bring greetings? If not, I'll just turn you back over to our President Paul. And good night and thank you all for coming. President Paul.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, PE Junior. Thank you so very much. At this time, I have no apologies for absence. I'm going to ask Secretary DLG Willie, did you receive any?
Yes, we received an apology from distinguished President Earl Spencer, who was unfortunately unable to attend.
Okay, thank you very much, Secretary DLG Willie.
And I have one, President Paul.
Yes, go ahead, DP.
DP Arturo, he has apologized for not being here.
Okay, thank you very much, DP Stewart. We'll move on to the recognition of birthdays and anniversaries. And I'm going to ask our capable VP Newton to do so. VP Newton, over to you.
Thank you, President Paul. Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope Valentine's Day was special for most of us. For this week, we have just one anniversary, and that's Kiwanian Colin Barnett and Rose. Their anniversary is in 2 days' time on the 17th of February. So that's Kiwanian Colin Barnett and Rose. They celebrate their anniversary on February 17th. And so through President Paul, I'm going to ask if anyone is celebrating any special occasion right now. Just open your microphone and let us know so we can celebrate with you. Anyone? All right, well, I guess it's back to you, President Paul, for up close and personal. Nice seeing you, IPDT Ralston. Seeing you up close and personal this evening, sir.
Yes, I'm wearing blue.
And I can see.
I know Bougainvillea.
Bougainvillea needs to WhatsApp, President.
Welcome, PDT Ralston. Welcome. Yes.
Get your tall rally. What's happening? All right, go on, President.
Yes, thanks. We'll have our Kiwanis education segment, and I'll ask the Secretary DLG Willie to share what he has in store for us.
Thank you very much, President Paul. I thought over the next 2 weeks, I will speak on service leadership program, and in particular the programs carried out by the club. I was hoping we may have had a few more new members, but certainly this would be new to our new Kiwanians. I think we have about 6 in the room currently. Among the Kiwanis branded programs carried out by the club include Reading Around the World, BUG, that's short for Bring Up Grades program, Terrific Kids program, oratorical speaking competition, and the Key Club debating competition. Bring Up Grades, or BUG, is a program designed to provide recognition to students who raise their grades into an acceptable range and maintain or continue to raise them from one grading period to the next. Terrific Kids is a recognition program that promotes character development, positive self-esteem, and perseverance. Students establish specific goals to improve behavior, peer relationships, attendance, or schoolwork, and strive to attend these goals. Students are then recognized as terrific kids, and recognition includes being pinned as a terrific kid. At the end of the 2-month period, the most outstanding students are designated super terrific kids and win a cash award. And I must point out that currently distinguished President Desmond Batchelor has a schedule where so far we have visited 4 of our Builders Club where we have launched the Terrific Kids program. Tomorrow we are at Almontown Primary. Oratorical competition. As part of the club's mandate, serving the children of the world, the Kiwanis Club of Kingston has for the past 25 years staged the oratorical competition amongst primary and preparatory schools where we sponsor our Builders Club. The brainchild of distinguished President Christopher Robinson is geared towards developing the speaking skills of our 8 to 11-year-olds found in grades 4 to 6. The participants in the competition have to be able to demonstrate an understanding of the issues being discussed, effectively communicate with their audience, demonstrate the ability to communicate ideas, and articulate the sounds and pronounce the most common words of standard English. Demonstrate some basic research to the topic being presented. The contestants are therefore judged on content, including clarity of message, projecting of ideas, originality, organization, reference, grammar choice, as well as delivery. The impact of the oratorical competition within our Builders Club has not gone unnoticed, as many of our winners have gone on to represent us proudly at the Eastern Canada and Caribbean and Kiwanis speech competition finals. This year, in fact, the SLP committee is again grateful to Mrs. Shernette Winter and Diana Metro and past President Victor McFarlane for their invaluable support over the years and their contribution of $60,000 this year towards the project. Lastly, Key Club debating competition, which this year is being chaired by one of our new Kiwanians, Andre Palmer. For many years, the Kiwanis Club of Kingston has organized a debating competition amongst members of its Key Clubs. Debating competitions allowed high school students to research and discuss many topical issues and provide a medium for exchange of ideas and fellowship for the students. Starting in 1978, during the presidency of distinguished President Winston Clark and under the chairmanship of the late DLG Michael Henriquez, the winners of the participating Key Clubs received the DP Winston Clark Trophy and the runners-up the DLG Michael Henriquez Trophy. This competition has had a high impact on the students who have participated over the years. The club remains committed to developing the competent and caring leaders through our service leadership program as we seek to fulfill the fourth object of Kiwanis International, which states to develop by precept and example a more intelligent, aggressive, and serviceable citizenship. Thank you, President Paul, Kiwanis Education for this evening.
Yes, thank you very much, DLG Willie, for sharing with us the work of the Service Leadership Program. And in fact, DP Desmond has been doing a terrific job so far in launching the Terrific Kids program. And I must commend DP Desmond on the effort that he has put into this program, being that schools are getting back on schedule as announced by our most honorable Prime Minister, and the Key Club debate as well, which will start after the midterm break because we see that kids need Kiwanis, and there are a lot of kids that have not benefited from these programs over the past 2 years. So it's a great initiative that the club has taken, and I encourage all the members to support the service leadership program. Thanks again, dear Julie, for sharing with the participants on the role of that committee.
You're welcome, President.
We'll move on to the main event, and I'm going to ask our DP Stewart to chair this segment of the Up Close and Personal. Over to you, DP Stewart.
Thank you, President Paul. Just checking, is the sound okay?
Yes, we're hearing it clearly, yes.
Yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, fellow Kiwanians and guests, it is our pleasure once again to have another in our series, Up Close and Personal. Started it a couple of years ago, and every 6 or 8 weeks or so, we asked two Kiwanians, two of our members, to not tell us secrets, but to share a little bit more about their personal lives and basically what makes them tick. And tonight we have two Kiwanians as usual. One is, you could call him almost brand new. One has quite a few years under his belt. And so they'll both be sharing their stories. It helps us to get to know them a little better. And out of it, sometimes it has come more activity by the persons who have been asked to share. So we look forward to another evening of that kind of exposure. I'm going to ask Kiwani and Andre to go first. I did send him a message because so that he was a little bit under, so he would be alerted that he would be going first. So we have Andre Palmer and we have Stephen Greig. Stephen is a past assistant secretary. When we used to have one, we don't have one like that anymore, that position anymore. And Steve, and as I said, Andre is a new Kiwanian. So Andre, it's your time. So let's hear from you.
Great, thank you so much.
And give them a little welcome, please, our members.
Thank you, DP Stewart. Good evening, fellow Kiwanians. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Is the sound coming through fine?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah,
No,
yes.
Great. No, this is always one of those very awkward situations where somebody asks you to, tell me a little bit about yourself. I'm sure most of you have been in an interview situation where that is the first question, and you don't quite know where to begin because there's so much to tell. So I always prefer for people to ask me very direct questions, but nonetheless, I hope in sharing my story and my journey tonight that I will leave you with just a little bit more knowledge about who I am, my background, and some of the things that I'm involved with. So thank you very much for inviting me to share in this forum. So where do I begin? So let's start at the very beginning, right? I grew up in a very small community in St. Andrew called Rock Hall, just above Cooper's Hill. Now, if you look on a map and you try to locate Rock Hall, it says Red Hills. So you'd see it as a community in Red Hills, but I don't really consider it to be Red Hills. And many of you would not have heard of it. But back in the day, if you were traveling from Kingston to Ocherous and the Bogwalk Gorge was impassable, then you would have to drive through Sligoville via Rock Hall. So you'd have to pass through Rock Hall to get to Sligoville, to get on the other side if you're going to the North Coast. So I like to tell people that my very small rural community has provided a great service to the nation. And you know what? We do not get enough recognition and credit for the pivotal role that we have played in cross-country connection and passage enablement. Call it embellishment if you like, but we are there on the map. I'm the firstborn of 3 children, but I'm really from a large family. My maternal grandparents had 9 children. So I grew up with lots of cousins, uncles, and other relatives who were close by. So growing up in that kind of reality meant that I had to learn at a very early age how to share. I had to learn teamwork. I learned to play sports. In fact, I learned how to make my own toys. That was something that my grandfather taught me. He passed away last week, God rest his soul. I learned how to tifo and go to the river with other children from the community. I learned how to fight. I learned how to forgive. I learned independence. I learned the importance of family, and I learned the importance of community. And all of those things I ascribed to my early childhood and upbringing in that very large communal setting where my grandparents and my great-granddaunts and my extended family all played a role in my upbringing and in raising me. So I remain eternally grateful for that start that I got. So again, my family is also deeply religious. So that meant I grew up as an active member of our local church. Growing up, we obviously didn't have the types of distractions that we have today in a small rural community. So growing up, church was the main source of social interactions. So I'd go to church on a Sunday morning for the divine worship. Then we'd go back on Sunday evening for evening service. Mondays were special committee meeting. Tuesday was Bible studies. Wednesday was men's ministries. Thursday was youth fellowship. Friday was a free day, I believe. Saturday was choir practice. And then on Sunday, we'd start all over again, and so continued the week. So all we had was church, school, ramping, and then church again. But you know what? Growing up in the church played a really crucial role in my development and how I think I turned out as a young man, because that was where I developed a sense of discipline and a very strong moral compass. That was where I developed the desire to become a good human being and a sense of duty to others. So again, that is something that I am eternally grateful for, and I wish more people got an opportunity to be a part of. I attended the best high school in Jamaica, without a doubt, and I know you know which school that is, so I need not say more on that. And I'm sure that a lot of people will disagree, but that's okay. Well, we'll beg to differ that one, but okay. And Calabar is also a good school, but it's not the best high school in Jamaica. Yeah? I mean, so not taking away from that. In high school, I considered myself an average student. And at Kingston College, where I went, obviously, I was bright, but I was lazy. And because of that, I found ways to get involved in every single extracurricular activity possible so that I would get exempted from turning in my homework or from participating in some class activities. So I was involved in debating, I was involved in science club, I was involved for a brief stint in track and field, I was involved in Key Club, I was involved in ICF, in SFA, in the United Nations Model Competition, in youth parliament, literally pretty much as many things I could have gotten involved in. But again, not knowing what I was doing at the time, that was where I developed, again, a sense of contributing to the community around me and realizing that life was so much more than just my immediate existence. And there was a way that I could use my talents and my gifts and my experience in the service of other people. When I left KC, I attended the University of the West Indies at Mona to read for a bachelor's degree in international relations with minors in economics and social psychology. And at the time, for international relations, you could study abroad if you wanted to in your second year or in the first semester of the final year. So I opted to spend my second year at the London Metropolitan University in the UK, and then I came back to complete my third year at UWE. During undergrad, I was appointed as part of the first cohort, I was appointed as a youth ambassador. So I served for a little over 3 years as the Commonwealth Youth Ambassador for Jamaica. And that enabled me to represent the interests of Jamaican youth at the policy level at a number of regional and international conferences and seminars. And that really gave me an opportunity to push agenda around inclusion and youth participation at the policy level. In 2006, I decided to move back to the UK to pursue, to get some international work experience and also to pursue postgraduate studies. And I did my postgraduate studies in international law and social psychology at the London School of Economics and Political Science. And once I completed, I spent about 10 years working internationally in the project management and management consulting industries, mainly in Europe. And you know, I look back and I say to people that I've been blessed and fortunate to have worked with some really amazing organizations and some exceptionally smart people who have challenged me daily to bring my A game and to show up as my best self. Again, for that, I'm eternally grateful. While I was living in the UK, I continued my involvement in youth work and charitable organizations. I was a member of the Jamaica Diaspora Youth Association and also heavily involved with activities at the Jamaica High Commission in London. I also served on the board of directors at the Newham Council, New Choices for Youth, which was a program that supported teenage mothers to be relocated in either work or home situation after birth. And that for me was near and dear to my heart, as particularly because I too was a product of teenage pregnancy. So my mother had me when she was really young. And you know, again, my extended community was what shaped my my upbringing. In 2015, so I lived in London for about 10 years. And in 2015, I was moved my job to the US to head up a newly created business division. And I did that for a few years. And then I decided to move back to Jamaica in 2017. I mean, I was always one of those people, even though I lived outside of Jamaica for so long, I'd always been uniquely connected with what was happening locally, simply because, I mean, my entire family lives here. So I was, of course, very concerned with what was happening here. And I'd watch, you know, the news and I'd read the local newspapers, and I would always say, well, you know, boy, the crime problem in Jamaica is getting out of control, or corruption is out of control. And, you know, these things need to somebody needs to do something about that. And it dawned on me that I am somebody and I could do something about it. And I started to actively look for opportunities to move back to Jamaica so that I could contribute in some meaningful and significant way to what was happening around me. So I moved back to take up a role at Simtai Consulting, which is an IT consulting firm based in Jamaica. And we work with about 450 clients in 20 different countries, mainly in the Caribbean and in Canada. And at Simtai, I am the Director of Research and Engagement, and my function is pretty much to keep an eye on what's emerging on the technology horizon so that I can help organizations along their digital transformation journey. I'm also responsible for strategic partnerships and the company's data privacy training portfolio in the wake of the passage of the General Data Protection Regulation out of Europe, as well as the Jamaica Data Protection Act, which was passed in 2020. I also, I mean, so that's the day job that pays the bills. But I also am involved with a company called the Inner Circle with a business partner, which is a bar company, and essentially we provide all bar-related products and services. Alcohol, bartenders, mixologists, bar counters, glasses, ice, literally everything you can think of for an effective running of our bar. But obviously, in the wake of COVID and you know, the global pandemic, and the fact that there are not a lot of events happening, that has obviously taken a major hit. So luckily, I think, you know, for me, it's always been about trying to find multiple streams of income and not having all the eggs in one basket. As far as interests go, I like to travel and experience new food and cultures, meet new people. To date, I have visited 32 countries on 5 continents. So far I've visited North America as a continent, Asia, Australia, Europe, and Africa. So on my list for this year is to visit South America. which would be the 6th continent. And then there is finally Antarctica. Well, I don't know about Antarctica because, again, you know, as Black people and the ice and the cold, I don't know how that's going to go. But some of the more interesting places I visited, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Belgium, Turkey, South Africa, Singapore, Switzerland, Australia, Lanzarote. My viewpoint is that the world is a big and amazing place with so many great things to offer. And my intention really is to see as much as the world has to offer. So, but again, of course, in the wake of pandemic and all of the travel restrictions, you know, I've not been able to travel as much as I would have liked in the last couple of years. But hopefully, we see a lifting of the restrictions and you know, and all of the madness that's going on around the world very soon. I also like tennis, well, watching that is, and I play a little bit of badminton when I can. I love to cook. I cook a lot. I mean, you won't be able to tell just by looking at me, but I also eat a lot, believe it or not. So I'm in the kitchen quite often. Some of the things that really drive and motivate me are issues around social justice, youth inclusion and participation, and just access to opportunities for everybody. Too often we see a lot of people denied opportunities based on how they look, based on how they talk, based on where they come from, based on the kind of family upbringing that they had, based on the kind of community that they grew up in, based on the kind of school that they went to. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is creating opportunities where everybody feels that they can have access to opportunities, that they can have access to climb the social ladder, they can have access to jobs, they can have access to a decent living wage, they can have access to the powers that create policy, so that they themselves can live more meaningful and significant lives. So I think that's it in a nutshell. That is, you know, who Andre Palmer is. There's lots more to tell, but I am mindful of the time that I have with you, and I do want to also leave some time for my other presenter to talk a little bit. But thank you again very much for having me, and it's been a pleasure talking with you about my background and who I am.
Andre, you did have about 5 or 6 more minutes if you wanted it. Just letting you know. Just letting you know.
That's fine. I think
I'm sitting here kind of enjoying it.
So example, okay, so how about this? So how about us using the last 5 minutes or so for questions?
Sure.
Okay. Sure, we can do that. You said you had a brief stint in track and field. What brought it to an end, and what were you involved? What events were you involved in?
Right. So, okay, I lived, so I remember I started by telling you where I lived. So I lived in Rock Hall, which is all the way on the other side. And I went to Kingston College, the greatest high school in Jamaica, right? So that meant in the evenings, 3 different buses and traveling for about 2 hours to get to school and back. Now, that would mean me getting home at close to 7 sometimes, you know, in the evenings, participating in training. So that, it just didn't work out for me. So for me, I was always a sprints guy, and today I'm actually still pretty fast. So 100 and 200 were the disciplines that I was involved in. You know, participated in sports day competition, never participated in champs, unfortunately. But yeah, it was really just a matter of balancing, you know, all of the other things that I was involved in, but at the same time, just understanding that I lived all the way. My friends had this running joke that I lived behind God's back and then 10 miles west, you know. So yeah, so that was obviously a consideration that, you know, was taken in as well.
Okay. Anybody else who would like to ask a question or two? We have about 3 minutes based on the time allotted for his segment. Go ahead.
I do have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, if you could, what program or like what can I say, what law, not law, but what program or what would you put in place to like help? Because with your ideas that you have and so on, and trying to help others, but like what exactly, if you could and you had the power to, what would you implement to help others, especially like the point that you raised with the single mothers and underage pregnancy?
Wow, President, is it Dabari? You've put me on the spot here, but there are a couple of things that really can be done, and I think it really starts with youth inclusion. It is this idea that to make people feel as though they have a voice, to make people feel as though they have something to live for, to make people feel like there is the hope of better. So one of the things that I think we can, or one of the places I think we can start is in the schools, programs that help to train people around what is called the hidden curriculum. There are certain things that people don't naturally learn by virtue of their existence. So, and I'll share a quick story with you. So I worked for one of the world's largest management consulting firms, really competitive to get into. And had I not been recruited in London, I probably wouldn't have worked for that organization. But so it's a 6-step recruitment process. And by the time you get to the final step, it's a done deal. But the final part of the interview process is a managing partner, along with a director, will take you for lunch or dinner with a couple of other members from the senior leadership team. And really what they're trying to do is to see how you conduct yourself over a business lunch or dinner. Now, the assumption is, you would have learned either by virtue of you growing up in a nuclear family where you sat down and had dinner at the dinner table with a knife and fork. The assumption is that that's something that everybody knew how to do. Now, there's this young man in Florida, bright guy, went to MIT, really, really smart. And he had sailed through the first 5 stages of the interview process. And at the time, I was sitting on the other side of the table as part of the recruiting panel. And, homeboy sat down at dinner, and he, it was our train wreck. I won't go into the details, but it was literally a train wreck. We got back to the office and we were doing the debrief. And Catherine, who was my vice president at the time, she said, wow, it's such a disappointment because I was really hoping that you would have been good. So I said, what do you mean? Are we not going to offer him a position? She said, no, didn't you see how he conducted himself over lunch? And I said, but all of the things that we are judging him on are things that can be learned. And her response to me was, of course, except we are not in the business of teaching those things. And in that moment, it dawned on me that there are a number of young people who are smart, who are talented, who deserve a seat at the table, but they are denied opportunities simply because they are being judged and measured on what is called the hidden curriculum, how they speak, how they conduct themselves, how they use a knife and fork, how they dress, all of those things. And I believe that there is a place where we can teach some of those things in our schools, in primary schools, in high schools, as part of the university curriculum, so that more people have access to opportunities as part of what I would call the hidden curriculum. So in a nutshell, that's kind of where I would start. And I hope that, and there are a ton of other things that can really be done. But, like I said, I'm really passionate about issues of injustice or just denial of access to opportunities. And this is one way I think we can bring people into the space where they're aware of some of the things that they're being judged on a daily basis.
That was a wonderful, expression. Maybe it sounds like the seed of a possible project. So it's something to think about. Thanks for that response. And yeah, I think we can take 2 more questions if they're short. Anybody else?
DP is short.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around why someone would coming from Rockall would pass Williams Road to go to.
I can answer that question. I mean, it's a very simple.
That decision is very I want to say that you have articulated and you have made an absolutely wonderful presentation. And it tells us that sometimes we are in associations, clubs, and we don't really know our person. So this program, Up Close and Personal, has great value because it enlightens us about each other. My question to you is, how do you see your involvement in Kiwanis, and what are you hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, so good question. So I think just in sharing a little bit about my my past would have given you an indication that I've always been involved in some aspect of service, either in the church, through clubs and societies, in school, through the Jamaica Diaspora Youth Association when I lived abroad, and then coming back, I came back with the explicit intention to find opportunities where through whatever small way I could contribute to the development of my country. So I see that as a responsibility that I have, and I take it seriously. And through Kiwanis Club, as a service organization, I get an opportunity to make an impact through some of the programs that are currently in place, or as DP was saying earlier, through the possibility of creating a new program to serve communities better. So one of the things that we're looking at, and I'm chairing the debating committee for the debating competition this year, and it is really just providing a platform where young people have an opportunity to exchange ideas and thoughts and put forward meaningful suggestions where they can make a difference or an impact in some of the policy directives that we see. So through Kiwanis Club, I see myself being able to be involved through servant leadership and helping my community in whatever way possible.
Thank you very much. And if you had stopped at Reynolds Road, you would be home by 5:30.
Yeah, that is true, except I wouldn't have gone to the greatest high school in Jamaica. So that would have been the trade-off, you see, so.
Here.
You walked into that one, Raleigh.
Okay, we gotta move on to Stephen. We're gonna move on to Stephen now, but I just want to just one thing. You didn't. I heard on the side that you play a key role in staging the debates that we have nationally. You didn't mention anything about that, but am I correct? Maybe you could just spend 30 seconds and just tell us what your role is. I think we'd.
Right. So for the last 2 years, we have not been able to host the debating competition, and I know it's a staple for the Kiwanis Club, again because of the pandemic and some of the limitations that's presented. But this year, we're looking at reintroducing the debate competition in a virtual format. We are going to be in March inviting the participating schools to participate.
No, sorry, I didn't mean our debating competition. I meant a national one.
The national one.
Oh,
Is
right.
that the one,
right. Okay, got you.
That's what I was talking about, right?
Right. So for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been a senior and resident judge of the Burger King National Secondary Schools debating competition. I've also been the chairman of JADE, which is the Jamaica Association for Debating and Empowerment, and as the umbrella organization for debating in Jamaica, we've put on debating competitions at both the primary, secondary and tertiary levels. And in fact, we had a business house debating competition. And one of the things that we did was for the public sector through the transformation implementation unit of the Ministry of Finance, we're able to house a debating competition for the public sector the year before last. We didn't do it last year. So I've been involved in debating in a number of different realms, both primary, prep and primary, high school, tertiary, and business house. At university, I represented the University of the West Indies at the World's Debating Competition 2 years in a row, at intercollegiate and intercollege debating competitions as well. And at the London School of Economics, made a team for the World's Tournament as well.
Okay, thank you, Andre. Is somebody talking? Sure. Maybe it's background noise. Okay, we're gonna move to Stephen. Stephen, are you ready?
I am. If you're hearing me, testing 1, 2,
okay, hearing you. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, fellow Kiwanians and guests, let's put our hands together and give Stephen a welcome so that he feels comfortable and ready to share his story.
Thank you very much, DP Stewart, President Paul, fellow Kiwanians and guests. Thank you very much for this opportunity to be able to share with you a little bit more about myself. I'll try and make it interesting, and I hope at the end of my presentation that it has been informative, inspirational, educational, and maybe a little bit entertaining somewhere in between. I have a long history with the Kiwanis Club of Kingston. I was a bit surprised when I first checked as to when I became a member, but I've actually been a member of the club for 30 years. This year will be 30 years. I'm not as active now currently as I was back in the day, but I'm still committed to the objects of Kiwanis, the goals and the Kiwanis way. So that's why I've still been a member, and I'll share with you a little bit later on how I'm still active in the Kiwanis movement. But again, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to share with you a little bit about my life and what I'm about, and with the hope that maybe I can interact, or my experience can be helpful to somebody else who is in a similar field or is interested in Kiwanis or any of the things that I've been involved in my life. So where do I start? Where do I start my life? Let me start at the beginning. So I was born in Kingston at UA Hospital, 24th of September, 1968. My parents, some of you may know my parents. My father is Stanley Greig, who unfortunately passed June 16th, 1997. That's 1 year after my wedding anniversary. But he was, at the time, he was general manager of IBM Computers Jamaica, and he held many roles, including past president of the Jamaica Computer Society. My mom, who is retired and still with us, thankfully, was an organizational behavioral specialist and a businesswoman and a manager of a number of the family's businesses, which I will tell you a little bit more about as I go along. But both my mother and my father were huge influences on me and who I have become as a person, my values, and taught me a lot of life lessons, and it's particularly a lot to do with entrepreneurship through many family businesses that we had. So growing up, my parents always emphasized that even though you're working in a 9-to-5, it's always important that you can move to a position where you have your own business that you can either take up or eventually do full-time, or something that would provide an additional source of income for you as you progress in life. So as growing up, my parents and family had a number of businesses in different areas. So there was Serendipity, which was a coffee shop in Manor Park Plaza some years back, where Island Grill is currently in Manor Park Plaza. We also ran a data entry firm, which was called Data Conversions Limited. And the family also had a farm in Ewerton and also in Bonnygate in St. Mary's. So as you see, there are a number of things, from farming, agriculture, to business, to data entry, to restaurant and hospitality. As a teenager growing up, I was exposed to my parents being involved in all of these various industries, and it helped to widen my exposure and to make me the person I am today. Went to school at St. Andrew Prep, and then on to Campion College, where I was active in sports. I played football, under 13 and Colts football, and I was very active in the scout movement at Campion. Eventually, when I was in sixth form, I actually became the scout leader for the Campion College Scout Troop. So I have a long history of moving through, even from prep school, I was in Cub Scouts, and I moved on to Scouts, and I rose to the rank of scout leader for the last 2 years of my high school at Campion. I have two brothers. One is Julian Greig, who is an online business consultant and entrepreneur. He's based in Barbados with his family. And I have a younger brother, Alexi Greig, who is an educational administrator who lives is in charge of the school district in San Francisco in California. I have a wife. My wife is Nicola Madden Greig, who is the Director of Marketing and Sales at the Courtleigh Hotel Group. And she wears many, many hats, and probably more recently, she is currently the president of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourist Association, the CHTA. But she's very actively involved in the hospitality industry. She's a star of the family, and I play a supportive role in that regard. So many of you may know her. After high school, I went to UWI, and I studied law for 5 years, which afforded me the opportunity to go to Barbados and live for 2 years, 1 year in Barbados, 1 year in Jamaica, 2 years in Barbados, and then 2 more years back in Jamaica. At the time, Jamaica did not have a law faculty in Jamaica. Now that UA has that, which is good. But back then, if you wanted to study law, you had to go to Barbados, which in a way turned out to be a blessing for me because it allowed me to have a Caribbean experience. I have a lot of friends who are in Barbados, Trinidad, and throughout the Caribbean. And I think it was a wonderful experience having to study overseas for those 2 years in Barbados. So when I graduated from law school, I was fortunate or blessed, I think, to have a unique legal experience in that I've worked in all different facets of the legal profession. I forgot to say I'm an attorney at law by profession. So the first part of my career was spent in Nunes Schofield de Leon, which is a law firm, which I practiced in the IT industry as well as in corporate law. So I was there, so I had the experience of working in a law firm which has targets and goals and partnership, aspiring to partnership, and a number of other things that you have to deal with. Then after that, I left there and I had the experience of working as an in-house counsel. So I worked with the RGR Communications Group as their attorney and company secretary. So that's Television Jamaica, Radio Jamaica, etc. And I was instrumental in the early part of the RGR Communications Group's career, where they were acquiring what was, some of you may recall, JBC TV, which later became what we know as TVJ. Also, what was JBC Radio 2, which eventually became Hits 92 FM. So I was part of a number of things, a number of Olympics, general elections, defamatory suits, anything that happened within the RGR group for the past 19 years. Previously, I worked there for 19 years, so I was exposed to a number of different things in that field. I left there, and I have started now with a law school colleague of mine, my own law firm. I'm the managing partner of a boutique law firm, which is called Mills, Bellamy, Greig. And so I've been doing that for the past 2.5, 3 years. And in that role, I've been able to specialize. It's a boutique law firm where we specialize in 3 different types of law. So I'm involved in one silo is real estate law, which obviously is representing both purchasers and vendors, everywhere from residential properties in Silver Sand, Trelawney, to a married couple just buying their first apartment or their first home, residential, commercial, and everything in between. So anything to do with real estate, that's one of the areas that I specialize in and I have a lot of experience in. The second area has to do with what I call company law and corporate governance. So basically what I do is I sit on the boards of a number of companies as company secretary, a number of companies that are listed on the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Some of those companies include like Mailpack Group, Everything Fresh, KLE, 138 Student Living. And what I do is I help these companies with their corporate governance guidelines. So I help them set out structures for their annual general meetings, their board meetings, make sure that they are compliant with the statutory regulations, FSC requirements, Jamaica Stock Exchange requirements, and so forth. I also work a lot with angel investment groups and venture capitalists. So there are angel investors who invest in companies, as well as first angel groups like First Angels Jamaica, who identify companies and invest in them with the hope that eventually they do become listed companies or they're purchased by larger companies. So I move into those companies and assist them with their structure, corporate governance structure, and make sure that they are compliant and they're running the company in a transparent and a proper way in terms of corporate governance guidelines. I also work a lot with companies that are doing IPOs. The most recent one would be FESCO. So I was part of the legal team for the IPO for FESCO. That's Future Energy Source, I believe. And some of you who invested in that IPO, I'm sure, are doing very well, because since its listing, it has appreciated by over 400% on the junior market of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. So prior to that, I'm one of the team that is working behind the scenes to get the prospectus to the market and to make sure that everything is in place so that when investors invest, they have a sound and viable entity that they're investing in. So that's the second area of law that I practice also. And then the third is music and entertainment. As I mentioned before, I was working at RGR Communications Group. So I'm very exposed to things to do with television, to do with film, to do with music, to do with media law. So everything between management contracts, publishing contracts. When you see a program like Rising Stars on TVJ and so forth, most of the paperwork in terms of the talent and the putting together, those are things that I have worked on during my time when I was working there. Worked with MTV, obviously TVJ. Oh, and I forgot to mention too, this is important too. So even though I'm a lawyer by profession, I've also had the privilege of working in an operational capacity. So I was the operations manager for RETV, cable station of RGR Group, and JNN, the news cable station of our RGR Communication Group for 2 years. So I got my hand involved in more of the creative and the operational side, less so than the legal side. So I'm fortunate to have that experience, which showed me some of the music and the entertainment part of things. And that's one of the things that I do enjoy. So that's what I do in terms of my profession. In terms of my hobbies, it's somewhat aligned with some of those things. My hobbies include music for the most part. I have a passion for music. So I've been involved in the music industry and the entertainment industry in many, many ways over the years. I've promoted parties. I've also managed artists. I was the first manager for the dancehall group TOK, and I also produced their first record. So I have a history with TOK and all of the guys who are members of that group. I also managed a Danish reggae singer called Natasha, who passed away unfortunately, but you probably would know her, those who know music. She's famous for this song called Calabria. I can't sing, but if I sing the first part of the song, you'll know what I'm talking about. She sings this song called Easy Now, No Need to Go Down, Easy Now, No Need to Go Down, and you know the rest of it anyway. So that young lady, I used to manage her also. I also have a record label, which is called Big Things Music, which I'm actively involved in. I produce music, mainly dancehall music. I have new projects coming out with Chiching Ching, Luton Fire, TOK, among others. If you're in the dancehall space, you'll know some of those names that I'm mentioning. So I'm very involved in music. I have a music blog where I talk about my interest in music, from hip hop to dancehall to reggae to EDM. It's called Mad Moments in Music. You can Google it. It's kind of a fun, funky blog that I share about music stuff and so forth. So what I've done over the years is merge my hobby or my passion in music with my legal profession. So I do a lot of music related and arts and related stuff, but I also have a hobby of pursuing the music industry also. I also like to travel. I think that traveling allows you to expand your horizons, expose you to things that sometimes you don't see when you're living in your current environment. Like Kiwani and Andre, I think I haven't been able to travel much due to the pandemic, but my wife and I have a bucket list that we're to visit all the countries, all the continents in the world. I've been to South America, I've been to obviously North America, Mexico, Europe, Egypt, Greece, Asia, Japan, China, Singapore. I think I haven't been to Australia yet, so that's next on hopefully on my list sometime in the future. But of all the places I've traveled to and the ones that I've made meaningful impact on me or impression on me were, and I would recommend all of these places. If you haven't been there, they're wonderful places to visit, just from a cultural experience as well as just a site and a tourist point of view. Would be Barcelona in Spain, a wonderful place to visit. Thailand, Bangkok or anywhere in Thailand, and the islands of Hawaii. Strange enough, if you've ever been to Hawaii, Hawaii is very similar to Jamaica in terms of its flora and its fauna and its history. If you look on it in terms of its latitude, it's very similar. It's very close in latitude to where Jamaica is, although it's all the way on the west coast. But when you go there, it reminds you a lot about Jamaica. They have breadfruits there, they have akis there, their fruits are very similar to Jamaica, and their spirit is very similar to Jamaica. It's what I say Jamaica would be like if they had money, because obviously it's a US state, so they have a lot of money there and it's very developed. But behind the money, when you move around the various islands in Hawaii, you will see that it's very similar to Jamaica. In terms of sports, I play squash, I play tennis, I mentioned football before, I weightlift now, and I also do a lot of running. So most weeks I'm running, I run 5Ks, I run 10Ks, I run half marathons. On my list is a full marathon, but I haven't done that yet, but there's still time to do that. But I run on a regular basis, and that's how I keep active. And then before I close, I want to also just mention what my Kiwanis experience has been. Like I said, I've been in Kiwanis for a very long time. I joined at a time on the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, some of you will recall, was active and vibrant. That's when Kiwanis had their meetings at Hilton Kingston. It's now closed now, but when the Kiwanis Club of Kingston, and when I joined as a mere teenager, Kiwanis Club of Kingston used to have interclubbing, like 30 or 50 people deep would be coming to the club meeting. The whole ballroom would have been filled with persons. There was an energy and there was a buzz associated with Kiwanis Club of Kingston. It was a luncheon meetings that we used to have, and everybody used to look forward to it. Things have changed over the years, obviously, and obviously the pandemic and so forth, but in its heyday, it was quite a thing to go to a Kiwanis Club of Kingston or meeting at the Hilton Kingston Hotel. And I think what Kiwanis has given to me, which I am truly appreciative of, is an ability to expose to really positive leaders, very inspirational leaders, people who have mentored me, people who have watched and picked up a lot about leadership and how to manage situations. I mean, some of them are no longer with us, but the list goes on. They're really, really strong characters and individuals. People like past Governor Carlton Levy, DLG Mike Enriquez, DP Ralston Nunes, who is on this call, who was, I worked with DP Ralston when he was committee chair. People like past DP Mike Fennell, and the list goes on and on and on. There are so many Kiwanians of great character and great substance that I've been exposed to in Kiwanis, and that's one of the things that I think I've learned. I mean, is just the power of leadership and how to deal with situations like that. So, in concluding, I would just like to say thank you very much for the opportunity to share with you my Kiwanis experience and what I've been able to do. And I'm open to any questions if anybody may have about what I've shared with you. And thank you very much for your time and your audience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. You know, I didn't know you were in the music business at all. You know, big
so,
what? What's it?
The record label is Big Things Music. You can look it up on YouTube. There are some of the songs and the songs that I've produced on there.
Yeah. You know, we play a lot of that kind of music after the meeting is ended, you know, so I don't know if I'm playing any of your productions, you know. But you use your time, so you know, but I still think it would be fair that if anyone who has a question or two, we could take about 2 or 3 at most before we ask Newton to do his thing. So the floor is open. Anybody wants to ask Stephen a question, you can go ahead.
Yes, President Deborah and this up BP Stewart. Our key club of
Oh,
President Deborah?
yes. Okay, go ahead, President.
Good evening again. Actually, this one is not as deep as the first one, but I'm curious as to know what would you say, or what decade would you say was the best for music, or your favorite for music?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think the 80s to me was the best decade for music, and that's across all genres. I think reggae, I think dancehall, and definitely hip hop. You just look at some of the the Super Bowl recently, and they had Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and 50 Cent. A lot of their music, and you research it, was at least back in the 90s or the early 20s. So the music was very old back then, but it just shows you that there's classic music from the 80s that I think can be played now and still enjoyed as much. I enjoyed it a lot. A lot of my really good music where the emphasis was more on lyrics and melody and less about gimmicks and mumble rap.
Okay, thanks for that response.
There's one question in the chat, Stephen.
Yeah.
From
If we can take one more.
Yes, from President Dwayne.
Oh, go ahead. Please read it for me.
Yes, Kiwanis Club of North St. Andrew, President Dwayne. He's asking, what is your most memorable Kiwanis moment?
Interesting. I would say I really enjoyed the Kiwanis Club meetings. I like the fellowship that it afforded. As a young Kiwanian, being able to meet all of these senior people at the time, executives, and being able to network with them and finding out, for example, that they were, even though you see them on television, you see them in newspaper, and they're well-established personalities in Jamaica, to be able to sit down and share a meal with them and talk with them, you realize that they are normal people and that they share a lot of share a lot of things similar to you. So I thought that going to those meetings and the ability to network and share with senior Kiwanians was one of my best experiences from so far in the Kiwanis movement.
Okay, well, I think, okay, unless somebody has a burning one, just one, we can.
A comment.
Who is that? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to make Stephen come, and I don't have a comment, but Stephen make my head swell, and not because he mentioned my name with Carlton Levy and McSwellen, but because he reminds us of those days on top of the Hilton. You know, I still harken back to those as the halcyon days of the Kiwanis Club. So he has brought back those nostalgic moments, and I really thank him. Good to see you, Stephen.
Likewise, Ralston. Good to see you.
Okay, we're gonna now ask VP Newton Ramdale to move a vote of thanks. I remember this is a vote of thanks without any certificates of appreciation. We don't do that for this particular series. Just letting you know in advance. Go ahead, Newton.
Thank you, VP Stewart. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Stephen Greig and Andre Palmer. I tell you something. This evening was absolutely amazing. I sat here and I listened and I learned so much. And it is always nice to see people who are really accomplished, who have decided that all that they have accomplished, all the knowledge and know-how that they have accomplished is not about to gather things for themselves, but also to use it in the advancement of their fellow man. And I want to say to you, gentlemen, it was great listening to you this evening. We have all learned a whole lot. I'm pretty sure a lot of us were just astounded how much both of you have achieved in your lifetime. And I mean, it's just great. And I will not spoil the occasion by going any further than to say thank you both. Back to you, DP Stewart.
Thank you, Newton. And I just want to also echo, that it was really wonderful hearing. Not everybody who I ask to do this program is able to or wants to. So I really appreciate it when some of you are, let's say, brave enough to step forward and, open up yourself. We really appreciate it. Back to you, President Paul.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, DP Stewart, for moderating this segment, and also to Kiwanis and Andre and our past assistant secretary, Stephen, for coming on board this evening to do it up close and personal. Our sergeant is on holiday, but I know PDT Ralston will escape a big fine for troubling Kiwanis and Andre during his presentation as to why I never got Calabar and Calabar all the way down to KC. So I'll make note of that and let the Sarge find him heavy.
Please, thank you very much, President. I appreciate it.
Yes. So we just do a blanket fine this evening in the interest of time. I'll move on to the notices and announcement by Secretary DLG Willie, and I'll ask also other members on the platform if they have any announcement to put it in the chat. Secretary DLG Willie, over to you.
Thank you, President Paul. Just a reminder that this Saturday, we have a continuation of our devotion and breakfast feeding program that we restarted last month, 9 o'clock, Marie Atkins Shelter for the Homeless, 69 Hanover Street. Just a reminder, Divisional Council meeting. It's March the 20th, right, Paul?
March 26th.
Sorry, March 20th. Yes, Saturday, March 26th. And we're also reminded, and that is also going to be on the occasion where we're going to have the elections of Lieutenant Governor-elect for 2022 to 2023. Also a reminder of District Convention in Fredericton, Nova Scotia from August 19th to 21st. Few interclubs, those are for tomorrow that we have slotted in. We'll be going to, at 6 o'clock, we'll be visiting Young Professionals Kingston. The reason being is they're having their induction ceremony. One of the inductees is our own faculty advisor at St. Andrew Technical Key Club, Heather Allen. So she's extended a special invitation to her Kiwanian friends. And we are also going to, after that, we're going to visit the 7 Club Interclub with Division 23 West and 24. That is at 7:30, involves clubs like Discovery Bay, Guys, Sailor, Eurotem, Premier Builders, Royal Vale, First City, Young Professionals, St. Catherine, and Blackstone Ridge. So that is 7:30. I sent out the link already. It should be in the WhatsApp group. I might give you all a reminder in the morning. That covers it basically. President Paul, you may now ask the visiting club if they have any other announcements. Thank you, sir.
Additionally, President Paul.
Yes.
LGE Fury has started his exposure to clubs as he goes forward to seek the position of Lieutenant Governor. And I think I'm one of the presenters. He has the meeting of the 22nd of March for the one that he will visit Kiwanis Club of Kingston.
On our birthday, the day before our birthday, so that's a birthday present in advance. That's good. PDT Ralston?
Yeah,
Yes.
22nd of March.
District
Yes,
Trustee,
that's okay.
District Trustee Ralston may want to just the date for the elections for the incoming district trustee is April 2, is it?
I am not sure.
I think it's April 2. I've
Yes.
been advised.
Yes, it is April. It is April 2, dear Julie, not on All Fools Day, because we had a meeting and it is set for April 2 for Region G. But,
Okay.
but more information will be communicated in short order.
Okay.
Yeah. I see President Afis as an announcement, our brother from Kiwanis Club of Downtown Kingston. President Afis, I will give you the floor.
Thank you, President Paul. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I was having a problem with my tablet. The Kiwanis Downtown Kingston is seeking support and from everyone. Come Friday 25th, we are having jerk and teas. It's a nice meal. We are going to start from DP Stefan's office. Contact 876-5412, and of course Kiwan and Demari as well. So you could also let LGE Willie know your orders. It will send it to me. I promise to deliver. You can't connect by yourself. So just let me know.
We'll do, President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, President Paul.
Yes.
Last year was a good occasion.
Yes, sir.
Excellent. You can't be left out like distinguished President Desmond when he got
Okay.
the
I see.
Yes. Thank you very much, President Afis. So with all the announcement and notices have been read and shared with us, I'm going to ask DP Stewart to move on, to share with us the thought for the week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President Paul. I'm getting a little feedback. I'm hoping it's not me.
No, it is not you, DP.
Okay. Yes, my first thought, it is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. That's one. And my other one is, I count him braver who overcomes his desires than him who conquers enemies. For the hardest victory is victory over self. And those two are from Aristotle. So those are my two thoughts for the week, President Paul. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, DP Stewart. This is a time where we adjourn our meeting. It was a great meeting, and I want to thank everyone for joining this evening. I know you have choices, and of course, it's always good that you choose the Kiwanis Club of Kingston each and every Tuesday. So at this time, I'm going to ask you to raise your glasses to a toast to Kiwanis International and to Jamaica Land We Love. This meeting of the Kiwanis Club of Kingston is now terminated at 8:29 p.m.
Land we love.
Yes.
Good meeting, President Paul. Good
Yes.
to have been here.
Yes.
Very good
Yes.
presentation.